Hello everyone, and welcome to my new series, or maybe new mini-series, Melyn Talk Support Matchups, where I'll be talking about various matchups in heavy detail, alright? So if you know from my text guide, I have short little blurbs on different matchups for Zyra support, mid, and top. And in addition, there's also Z-Mid, the Zyra matchup YouTube database, with the link is actually below right there. You can check that out if you want full-length VODs with in-depth commentary. But if you want something a little more focused and a little more succinct, maybe, that's what this series is going to be. All right, so we're going to be doing videos, maybe one or two a week, focusing in depth on some support matchups. So today we're going to be talking about one of the most common supports, and that's going to be Thresh. All right, now in general, Thresh is favorable to Zyra, but it kind of ends up being a skill matchup. Like if optimal play is on both sides, then Zyra should probably win, but it's very easy to Zyra lose, because again, in the Zyra Thresh matchup, Zyra is going to be winning slowly, by little by little, right? She's going to be gaining advantages, but all it takes is one mistake and you throw all those advantages away. So you should win over time, but you can lose very quickly, which is why, even though it's favorable to Zyra, it may go even, or you may even lose a lot of the times depending on what happens. All right, especially it's very snowbally with jungle pressure as well. All right, so I want to start this video by talking about the early laning phase, and in general we're going to then be moving on to the mid game, team fights, and stuff like that for things to be aware of. But honestly, against Thresh, most of the interaction we're going to have with him is in the laning phase, so that's going to comprise the core of this video. We're going to go level by level and then kind of talk about some more generic things for Thresh. All right, so by far, the most important part of the Thresh versus Zyra matchup is level 1, okay? This is where you set the tone, this is where you set the pace, this is where you kind of, I mean, we say it jokingly, but this really is where you assert dominance and get control of the lane. All right, so Thresh does have a ranged auto attack, sort of, but you still outrange him heavily. All right, so you should be auto attacking him very, very heavily at level 1. I mean, as long as you're not making yourself vulnerable to the enemy AD carry. All right, but assuming that the AD carries are kind of dealing with each other here, which again is not the perfect assumption, but for purposes of this video, I think it's important. Okay, so you should be not allowing Thresh to walk forwards. And again, if most Threshers will start their E, the Flay, and that does give them an empowered auto attack, but it's only one empowered auto attack, and then it takes some time to build up. So you should be constantly running into the brush, getting your Greenfather's Gift proc and auto attacking him, trying to Q any passive seeds, or trying to set up your Q so that it hits both the support and the AD carry at the same time. All right, and you should definitely be able to get your Thunderlord's proc level 1 again, unless their AD carry is playing very, very aggressively. So this is going to give you the push for near level 2, and this is going to give you a health advantage. And a health advantage is extremely important whenever you're playing against engaged champions. Think Blitzcrank, Thresh, Leona, Nautilus, champions like this, because if you can get a health advantage, then you force them to be unable to engage. And if an engaged champion can't engage without dying, then you've won. All right, so that's why level 1 is so important. And Zyra's level 1's not the strongest, but it is stronger now that she has her passive. All right, so abuse those auto attacks, abuse the brush, especially you're gonna want to take special care to use the brush in such a way to avoid minion aggro, right? Because if you auto attack someone that's in a minion wave, the minions will target you. So ideally, you want to go into the brush, get Greenfather's gift, move out of the brush, auto attack, minions are going to turn to you, move back into the brush to drop the aggro. All right, and that's the important thing for this level 1. Okay, but of course, you know, I say be aggressive. It's still easy to die. Do not walk into flay range by the Thresh, because if he flays you and you're too far forwards, you can take a very, very unfavorable trade. Okay, so respect the damage, stay at max range at all times. And that's basically your level 2. So against a Thresh, you should hit level 2 first, and then you get access to your QW auto attack combo, which is Zyra's core harass in lane. And you have a decision to make, all right? And it's a very important decision. When you hit level 2, do you harass immediately with your seed, or do you wait? And a lot of it depends on how your AD carry is playing out. Because think about it this way, right? If you use your seed immediately, then you have no seed for another 20 seconds, and you're essentially level 1 with some extra stats at this point. So be very, very intelligent with how you use your very first seed. Try to be aggressive with your AD carry, or if your AD carry is not going up, I wouldn't use the first seed immediately after hitting level 2. I would wait, as I usually recommend, until you have 2 seeds, and then you can use one of them and still have one as backup if the enemy team commits, alright? Yeah, that's kind of your level 2. And then you also have another kind of big decision to make when you're hitting level 2. Do you focus the AD carry or the support more? In general, it's better to focus the AD carry in these matchups. They have fewer potions. They're usually more damaging, unless it's like a Zyra or something. It helps you get better control of the lane if the AD carry is low. All right. But that being said, you're kind of forced sometimes to focus on harassing the support if they're having a really front presence. So if the Thresh is playing really far back and respecting you, then yes, harass the AD carry. If the Thresh is playing really far up and is zoning your AD carry or creating a lot of pressure, you want to start chunking them down, all right? The more we harass the Thresh, the more room it gives our AD carry, which means we can play more aggressive in turn, all right? So that's kind of the ways of thinking about how to harass a Thresh or whether to harass the AD carry. Those are the kind of ideas. And finally, for level 2, it's kind of again like level 1. Don't let him get too close to you. If he's, and that kind of goes in with my previous point, where if he's really far up, right? If he's threatening you, poke him down. Don't allow him to be there for free. All right. Auto attack him, use Qs. Even if you're not using your seeds, Qs can give, they can stack up the damage pretty well, as long as you make sure not to run out of mana. So that's something to be aware of as well. And then I think the final thing for level 2, and again, this is when most Threshes take hook, is to always stay behind minions, okay? If you're behind minions, he can never hook you. So usually what's gonna happen is you're gonna want to be in the brush, but he's probably gonna want to be in the brush as well. So, you know, if you're both in the brush, you're not gonna have minions between you, and so that's gonna be a very dangerous situation for you. So again, in this case, I might go into the brush and get a Greenfather's proc, but I would probably move out of the brush and go into the minion wave or behind the minion wave on the closer to the river. So you're always positioning the minions between you and the Thresh, which gives you a lot more safety and a lot more ability to harass without worrying about getting hooked. And then, of course, something that also can very often happen, right, is if, say, we're kind of close to the river and he's closer to the brush, he may swing behind your minions and go for a play. If he does that, I would just turn on to the enemy AD carry, because he is way too far forwards. He can't really help unless he gets a hook, okay? So turn on the AD carry, and again, stay away from the Thresh is usually like that. And that kind of covers your positional bases, kind of most of the cases that are going to happen with the Thresh in that positional situation. And that's your level 2. All right, so next is going to be level 3. What are you going to do level 3? So level 3 is when Zyra is very, very strong. You should always have at least one seed up, unless you're on an all-in, and 99% of the time you should keep your E available. All right, so harass with your QW auto. That's the typical Zyra harass whenever you can. All right, especially with Greenfather's Gift or something like that. All right, once you use your E and once you're out of seeds, you are extremely vulnerable and incapable of really helping your team out. So only use your E when it's like guaranteed that it's going to land. So maybe if it's a short range immobile AD carry coming in for a cannon minion, you can use your E. Or maybe if Thresh is like walking forward and you're like, okay, I need a seed in front of me, use your E. And this is probably a good time to be talking about this, because if you're following my usual skill order, we go Q, W, E for levels 1, 2, and 3. So now you have all 3 skills, and we finally have our E. One of the coolest things about having your E is that it can instantly spawn a plant. Your Q does not instantly spawn a plant. It has a short cast time, okay? But E, you can instantly spawn a plant as long as it's right in front of you, right? If it's at max range, it is going to have to have the travel time of your E to get there and spawn the plant. And what this does is it allows you a buffer, basically a safety, a minion in a box, just to add E, I guess. I don't know, it's a stupid reference. But it lets you block Thresh hooks, basically. And not only like, oh, I'm a god, I'm going to spawn this plant like at the last possible minute right in front of him to block his hook. Maybe not so much. But if, say, Thresh is moving forwards at you and you're like, oh, man, I can't dodge his hook. I can't dodge his hook. Just EW towards him, spawn a plant even before he casts his hook, and then just stay behind the plant, okay? And that'll let you be able to harass him from safety. You're basically creating a barrier between you and the Thresh. And even if the plant's not attacking, it's giving a barrier, and you can spawn a Q plant afterwards to do your damage for you. And that's kind of a really good trick that you're going to be doing a lot in this lane, especially once you have access to your E. Okay? And kind of very closely connected with that is we're not really auto attacking anymore. We auto attack very often level 1 and level 2, and if you can still get an auto attack into your QW combo, that's great. But the Thresh is probably tanky enough now, unless you got him really low. He's probably healthy enough now that your auto attacks aren't going to do very much, and they make you very vulnerable. So be very aware of how dangerous auto attacks can be and what they're going to give you. That being said, if you can get auto attacks off, they're still really great. It's great chip damage over time. Okay, so try to save your EW once you're level 3. You can use QW for all of your harass, and that's kind of how you're gonna go about doing things. Another kind of side note about one of the nice things about playing against Thresh is, say he overextends, all right, and I EW the Thresh, just, you know, for a full-on like burst poke combo. So EW, QW auto or something like that. Well, he's going to have 2 plants in front of him. So if he tries to hook you back, he can't. He would have to walk through your slow plant and then hook. And by that time, you should be able to get away, especially since your plants have a 35% slow, I believe. Or maybe it's 30%. I think it's 35%. All right. So yeah, that's another way. So basically kind of, I'm done levels 1, 2, and 3. I'm done with the early laning phase. The kind of takeaway here is that you have so many advantages over Thresh. You just have to be careful not to get yourself killed. Because again, one mistake and all of these advantages are out the window. And similarly, and unfortunately, one mistake from your AD carry can similarly throw it out. We've all had those moments where we're setting up great advantages for our team, and the AD carries are like, I'm gonna face tank this Thresh right now and eat a hook and die. And it's like, okay, well, the last 5 minutes are useless. So, you know, you can't always have it. But that's kind of the early laning phase against Thresh. Next, I want to make a few comments about what happens when you hit level 6 against the Thresh, all right? So, level 6, Thresh gets his ultimate. Obviously, you get yours too. The box. And now, usually we think of the box as, you know, this incredible slow. This incredible slow. And it is. It slows you by a lot. Very important thing to do, especially as Zyra, you're very squishy, is realize that this box does a lot of damage, okay? So even if the slow doesn't matter to you, do not walk in or out of the box unless you have to and you're healthy, because that thing is gonna hurt. So that's kind of a side note that I feel like a lot of people don't really realize or think about. And the other thing, and I probably should have mentioned this at level 3 when Thresh usually gets access to his lantern, is you have to play around the lantern in a Thresh lane. And I'm not talking about the small shield it gets. I'm talking about using the lantern to get gank assistance from a jungler, him using the lantern to get an AD carry out of your plants. Those are the main 2 things you're gonna have to watch out for. And then of course Thresh can use a lantern in a few other ways, but those are the things you need to always be aware of as a Zyra support into a Thresh. Okay, so for example, say I'm level 6 and, you know, Thresh and the AD carry are not next to each other, so I can't get them both in a combo. And I have level 3 E, I land a level 3 EW combo on the AD carry. I was like, sweet, let's use our ultimate, let's use a QW, we're gonna get this guy. But then without a flash, without a dash, Thresh just lanterns him away. Your seeds are useless, your ult's useless, and maybe you did a third of his health or something like that, okay? And then they can engage on you and you'll die. So be very careful about committing. Be very careful about all-inning when Thresh lantern is up and Thresh is further away. Or again, a Thresh can even lantern flash to use his flash to save the AD carry as well. So be very careful about overcommitting. As Zyra, you don't want to use your ultimate unless you know that they're stuck in it, basically. That's a different video if you want to see me talk more about skill usage and ultimate. So don't be baited by his lantern, and make sure that he's unable to use it if you're committing. And then let's see, that level 6, we talked about the damage of his box. We talked about him using the lantern, which I guess kind of goes next into the next point of how do you facilitate a gank onto Thresh. So again, you have to make a decision. Can I burst down the AD carry before the lantern arrives, or should I just try to burst down the significantly tankier Thresh? Okay. Usually you're just going to have to focus the Thresh in a gank. Which is difficult, but it's better than dealing with the lantern. So just be aware of that. And that's mostly Thresh for a laning phase. And there's not many things to talk about outside of the laning phase for Thresh, other than be very careful when you're sieging and not to get hooked. But I mean, that's pretty standard. Be careful about hooks. A good general tip for the game. All right. Again, don't waste your combos if his teammate is just going to get lantern. All right, so that's pretty much it. This is my first video on support matchups. There's going to be more. Going to be going in depth into this stuff. If you have any feedback, feel free to let me know on my Discord, on my Twitter, on my Twitch, or even just in the video comments below. Also in the video description, there's information on how to find me on social media. I stream all the time. I'm very active on Twitter, etc. So check that out along with my guides. And if you have any questions, let me know. I always like to answer them. Thanks for watching, everyone, and may your enemies, especially Thresh, feel the thorns embrace.